Questions, concerns? How did it feel to not know what was going on at all?
It was playful, since we're in a safe environment.
Free. No rules, so we could just do what we want.
I think with the type of person that I am, I sort of imposed like a structure on it. Like I was keeping track of movements and how you guys were organized on the stage. And I guess my mind just gravitated towards that.
Likewise, I feel like I started to impose like my own sort of like form. So like at first I was like, oh, I think we're supposed to like relate to the sound that we hear. So I tried to sort of like engage with the sound in a sort of corporeal way. And then I just got like sort of anxious about just like being in this space and like not knowing what to do. So I was like, what's concrete? The space. So I started to like sort of trace perimeters with it. And
That's
I
great.
just like walked the perimeter of different parts of the space. So I definitely found like my own ways to impose structure because not having a structure really freaks me out.
What about you? Oh, sorry.
I would have totally freaked out if I had been in that group. Like, I don't know what to do with my body. But I can do a lot of things with a pen. So it was comforting to be documenting and playing with the documentation.
What was the group in the rehearsal room doing?
I was going to ask for that.
Broke into song, really.
Oh, we sang a little song. We made a friend.
So them seeing the song is what they heard in that, which then that movement was what we drew. Cool.
And then what you drew was what the people in the sound room were seeing.
Right. Yeah, we had a Skype feed of what
Oh,
was being
that's
drawn.
cool.
So we were kind of talking about that.
And what we
Well,
were
so
saying.
wait, we were,
So we were drawing what was going on in
and
the
you were watching us
And they
while
were-
we were,
Yeah.
okay. So
You were-
it was
they were
a
watching
closed
your-
loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Wow.
It was a close loop.
So you guys were doing movement to audio.
To your,
To what you were
to- yeah,
saying.
Us talking.
So I kept looking for, okay, what's the source that I'm pulling from that?
Right.
That's going to motivate movement, if movement is what's
You were
desired.
hearing us? No.
We were here.
The drawing rooms, there was no sound coming from the drawing room, so no one could hear you in the drawing room, which was kind of strange because the physical room only had one, and the sound room was really quiet, which is ironic because that's where we were assuming sound would be. And then I walked into the drawing room, and everyone is like giggling and talking, and it was just a really cool environment.
So they were moving to what they were hearing in that room.
Yeah.
Got it.
Wow.
And you guys had video.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were watching like a Skype feed of
Right.
the guild, but no sound.
Right.
So we were just deciphering movement and drawing.
Right.
Got it. Wow, cool.
I mean, at one point I started writing what I've seen. So it was like a nursery school book where
Yeah.
it continues. There's a red balloon. Maria's bag is green.
What was the title about?
Performing Philip?
Well, that's at the beginning we just we wanted to name the folder for Dropbox that we had to make, and we didn't know what to name it, so we named it Philip. And then when we were thinking about the project, we didn't have an idea on how to
Name it.
name it in a more sophisticated.
But it made sense in a way that
So we
all we
didn't-
put in Philip
Yeah.
was basically ideas for what you were going to perform. So performing Philip was like,
So now it's always, we're just
And
chatting
also
about
it sounds like, when you play the telephone game and someone says performing failure, then somehow maybe at the end we could come to performing
You end up with Philip.
the loop.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I thought that was about Philippe Petit because we'd been talking about him and then I'd been researching him and writing about him.
Just the,
Across the Twin Towers. So that's
Ah,
why
yeah.
this was somehow related to.
same
All
chance.
this is you can't control them.
No.
Yeah.
That's part of the process.
Yeah.
Part of the point.
Do we want to wrap up?
Yeah?
Do you want not to make it formal? Not make it formal? I'll just put it in my notes.
Unless you want to.
No.
Oh, I had a question for the group who was seeing our feed from the drawing. Did you recognize the people that I was drawing?
Were you drawing specific people?
Yeah.
But there's your answer.
Your beard came out.
Yeah, I know. It's not like me drawing. It was just not very good. No, but that's. I mean, it's funny that people thought that your drawing of me was soon. That's
Because I drew like
become new
one
media.
with a beard with the bun on top and one with a beard and one on the bottom. But then I realized like your beard doesn't come out as far as Sue's did. So, yeah.
But like that was just the overlaying thing. Like you were the one from the outside. How were you feeling that process?
Oh, I did not know what to say. Oh yeah, I noticed like I don't know. Yeah, it was just like interesting. I just like I didn't know what to say or like if words were necessary really, or like how it was really affecting anyone else. So I just really just went to what I knew, and I noticed Denise's drawing, so I was like, oh, that's Denise's drawing, and that's all I did. But we did actually notice like the mohawk being drawn at once. We all were like, oh, mohawk. So mohawks are unifying.
Oh my gosh.
And that was me drawing her hair.
Yeah, we all thought it was like a cool mohawk.
Like with your cupcake skirt.
So cute.
Like what would you like a question in general? So like what would you as a spectator take away from this process? Like have you learned anything about yourself, about the world?
It was way too short for me to like reflect
Short,
it
yeah.
back on myself. Like if we had like an hour, probably I would have started learning. But
I mean, retrospectively now, it's making me think about just like the question of content and how content operates and like how it's generated. Because really, the content was in a really bizarre way self-generated, but also like there was no content, and yet content sort of emerged somehow from like our neuroses and like anxieties that somehow spoke to each other and then led to us to do things.
Yeah, and for me, what I took from it was that art project works on connotation. So watching a screen and having to just create something through myself was so much like what we're going to be doing and what we've done. So it was very cool to see that we kind of have similar themes.
One of the things that I kind of observed was in the drawing room, there was a specific media device that was left as a provocation, which was the rolled out construction paper and pens, which, because they recall that kind of kindergarten experience of drawing out big drawings, I found it interesting, Denise, that it took you a bit before you started writing. Drawing was immediately the activity over writing that those media elements produce. And I wonder if the other two rooms, what other provocations could have existed in those spaces, because the people that inhabited them only had bodies, although in the movement room, you guys found the balls and the boxes and the objects, but I don't believe that you guys placed those there deliberately. So it makes me wonder, had the sound room had musical instruments and had the movement room had more objects of play, whether that question of content might have been pulled along specific directions, because certainly the drawing room was pulled along a specific direction by the matter of having markers, crayons or markers?
Markers.
See, markers and that paper in that specific way.
Yeah, we had the mic, I think, that at one point probably provoked us into getting vocal, because the mic was like the thing I think that grabbed our attention. With the screen, but the mic.
How did you feel prompted in the physical room?
Well, I think that Monty's bringing up a very good point, and so me being in that situation, yes, wants the provocation, because that's the difficulty is not having it, and yet then I say, but no, what is the point? To actually drop us into the void, to make us free fall into nothingness, and to see what happens. And so that's what was supposed to be the provocation is the void. Then I personally need longer, because I'm in this space of time that I had, I'm fluctuating and very self-consciously talking back to myself of, no, don't jump to character, no, don't jump to story, no, don't jump to narrative, don't jump to relationships, so then deal with this space. So now I'm doing viewpoints work. Okay, don't do viewpoints work, don't do bullshit, you're making crap up, like I have to actually go through all of those phases of attempting to find the lifeline in the void. Eventually, given enough time, I'll probably just land in the void, and then something real will happen. And you can say, but all of that garbage, Sonia, is real, that I'm moving through.
But you're
trying
conscious
to scrabble,
about it.
But I think that something, given more time, something else might actually happen that's in relationship to the void, as opposed to in relationship to trying to find something, to manufacture something.
I think actually what we witnessed then was a very interesting collision between human time and time constraints, acceleration of time that we find so often on the internet and in our information age, where you want to have access immediately to everything in a second. You don't want process, you want to cut out process. Right? Now everybody actually realizes we do need that. Humans are kind of slow. Right? We are slow. We are not as certain parts, the synapses, they might fire, in much higher rapidly than a computer can before we have quantum computers, which are just around the corner. But to follow, we have this delay going on, right? Human bodies are slow, our brain. The processing of the brain is slow. Getting the information is fast, but then what to do with that information, which is basically the problem of information, of the information society. Information is thrown at you at any second, but then what do you do with it?
And you don't have the time to find yourself in that space, that void, as you say, which is the void can also be the massive amount. There's so much that you can't. It's the same kind of extreme opposites, but the same kind of void. Like either too much or too little. Where do you place yourself?
I actually loved it. I felt like it was a really interesting exploration of audience and spectatorship, because we were each kind of attending to each other, but in an active way. And there was a little kind of disturbance of the usual way of using our senses, right? So we had some things cut off, some things coming to us in another way. But it was just so interesting not to be a passive spectator. We were responding to somebody, responding to us. It just was I just found it very pleasurable to have that knocked off. But it wasn't in a harsh way, like it was in a really playful fashion. And just great, because I listened to the people, I listened to the voices differently if I was being inspired by moving to them. But then I wasn't consciously moving to them, but then I realized I was kind of playing with them without even knowing it. So it was lovely, actually, and I thought it could be I would love to do a whole evening of that.
Interesting. Yeah. Cool. If anything else, otherwise I think our time is up.
Awesome.